Hello to the fifth grade religious education class of St. Joseph on the Brandywine Parish. My name is Mrs. Davies, and I'm going to be helping you with the lessons that I would normally be teaching on Sunday mornings in the Parish Family Center. Of course, because of COVID-19, we cannot do our lessons in person this year. So we're going to be using technology as the next best thing. And this video is one of the tools that I am going to be using to help you throughout the year. I wonder, have you ever asked your parents, why do I have to take religious education class? Well, I truly believe that because religious education is all about understanding how much God loves you and wants to be with you forever. I can't imagine anything more important than that. And these classes, along with what you learn from your parents, who are your most important teachers, are meant to provide you with a solid foundation for developing your relationship with God and with your brother. And I mean that in the most inclusive sense of the word. So I'm not limiting it to your annoying little brother or any other annoying sibling. Now, you may know that the church just recently celebrated the Feast of the Guardian Angels back on October 2nd, a little over a week ago. I believe that praying to and thinking about our guardian angels is a good way for us to start off our religious education year, because although we cannot fully understand them, just as we cannot fully understand our God, we do know that they are a manifestation of how much God loves us and ensures that we are never alone, never without His support to endure hardships and to do the right thing when we're faced with life's choices. Your guardian angel acts as your protector and shepherd, a guide for your journey through life. And I know that mine is here now to help me as I try this new way of teaching you about your Catholic faith. And please forgive me, I've never done a video presentation before, so I'm struggling a little bit with this. But before we start our lesson, I'd like you to turn to page 56 of your Venture Handbook. Do you remember this? You've probably used something just about the same thing in years past in your religious education classes. If you turn to page 56 in this book, you'll find your prayer to your guardian angel. And I'd like us to recite that together because this really is the start of our class tonight. And we'll begin in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God's love commits me here, ever this day be at my side, to light, to guard, to rule, and to guide. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. All right. If you want to learn more about angels after this class is over, you can find a great explanation of them in page 9 of the same handbook we just read the prayer from. Okay, one other piece of business before we get down to this week's lesson. Some of the things that we'll be doing are very similar to a normal Sunday religious education class. We're still going to be using the Gospel Weeklies that you have been using for the last couple of years if you've been a student at our parish religious ed classes. And we're still going to be using the handbook that you just read your prayer to your guardian angel from. Okay? We're still exploring God's great love for you through reading the Sunday Gospels. You probably remember that the Gospel means good news. And why are the Gospels good news? Well, because they are the inspired writings of Jesus's disciples, which tell the story of Jesus' life, his life-saving actions through his passion, death, and resurrection, and his messages to us about how to live in a way that will gain us eternal life with him in heaven. That is something that you've been doing for the last couple of years as you use your gospel weeklies to learn about the life, the life-saving actions of Jesus, and the messages about how to live our lives. Okay, what is different, though, from normal is that you are going to be reading and studying your gospel weeklies and your handbook at home with a parent or on your own, whatever works best for you. I will not be reading them with you today or any other day on these videos. The second thing that's different is you can, because this is a video that you can watch anytime you feel like it, and do your lesson anytime that's convenient to you. You don't have to set aside 10 to 11:30 on every Sunday morning, but can rather do the lesson and watch the video in the other order. Watch the video first, then do the lesson at whatever time and place suits your schedule. So that's kind of a nice thing, I believe, for you. I will be periodically uploading one of these videos, the point of which is to refer you to certain parts of the material that you'll be reading and discussing and thinking about on your own that I think you should pay close attention to, and to alert you to other aspects of your Catholic faith that may not be included in the weekly lesson. So, for example, I've already mentioned your guardian angel and places in the handbook where you can learn about your guardian angel and say a prayer to him or her. That's not part of your weekly, but my purpose in doing these videos is to, again, explore some of the thinking that is behind your gospel weeklies, and also to talk about other aspects of Catholic worship, Catholic custom, tradition, and other aspects of your Catholic faith. I would like to ask you to watch these videos before you do your lesson in the particular gospel weeklies that I will be covering. And since we won't be together in a classroom where you would normally have a discussion about what you're reading with me and with your classmates, I would encourage you to discuss your gospel weeklies with your parents or with your siblings or with your friends who are also working in this way. And you can always ask your parents to email me if you have any questions in particular that you would like me to answer. I'd be happy to answer them. And your parents have my email address. So, turning now to your gospel weeklies. The weekly for October 11th, 2020, is the first one I'm going to discuss with you tonight. The weeklies for September 20th, September 27th, and October 4th were also in the package that you brought home with you. But this is the one we will begin, or I will be going over, as it is about the gospel for this Sunday. Now, I would like you to start the lesson that you're, again, going to be doing on your own by reading and thinking about the gospel that's set forth on page 4 of this particular gospel weekly. It's the parable of the wedding feast. You might remember from classes in the past that parables are short stories that Jesus frequently used in his public ministry to teach about the kingdom of heaven. They are often metaphors for the kinds of actions that we take today, even in 2020, and decisions that we make now in our present lives that will either bring us closer to God or push us further away from him. I think you've probably studied metaphors in perhaps in your language arts classes in your schools. And if you have, then you know that a metaphor is a comparison, which, although it's not literally true, helps to paint a picture of or explain an idea that the speaker is trying to convey. So a good example of this is that if I say that my son's room is a disaster area or is like a disaster area, even though it's not literally a disaster area, you have a picture of what it probably looks like. Perhaps you have a disaster area of your own at home. But that's what a metaphor is. It's a writing device that helps make clear the message that the writer is trying to convey. And in the case of the parable of the wedding feast, which is a story about a king who invited everyone to a wedding feast for his son, and about how they responded to that invitation. So in that parable, the metaphor of the wedding feast, Jesus is using that metaphor to teach us about the poor choices that people often make when they're called by God to accept Jesus in community with the church. It's a little challenge to us. This particular gospel is a challenge to us to try to live our lives in a way that prepares us for a life with God. Among other things, the wedding feast is a metaphor for God's invitation to receive the Holy Eucharist at Mass and how we respond in our daily lives to that invitation. So please read it and think about that metaphor. And after you read it, and here is the page that I'm talking about. I don't think that's coming through. I know there's a lot of glare on my screen. But after you read the gospel, then in the box below the gospel is an explanation headed by the phrase, God invites everyone to his feast. You want to read that explanation because it will help you to better understand what the wedding feast parable is saying about how we should respond to God's invitations to us throughout life. You should also turn to page 15 in your handbook. Again, this is your handbook. And on page 15, you will read about why Eucharist is so profoundly important to us as Catholics. The handbook, incidentally, just as a reminder, even though I know you've been taught this before, the handbook is an explanation. It's basically the catechism of the Catholic Church. It is, as it says underneath the title, it is what the Church believes and teaches about our faith. So it's actually a simplified version of the Catholic Catechism. And so it's very important for us to try to incorporate parts of the handbook into your weekly lessons. And that's why I'm referring to it now. So again, just to reiterate, you should turn to page 15 in the handbook because that's where you'll read about what the Eucharist is and why it is so important to us as practicing Catholics. So once you've done all of that work, that is, read the gospel and the explanation on page 4 in your Gospel Weekly, and done the readings that are referred to in the handbook, then you might want to read the story on pages 2 and 3 of the weekly. So it's a story entitled Cynthia's Kitchen. And you might also want to do the quiz on page 1 and reflect upon how that story about Cynthia's Kitchen and the quiz that has to do with hunger in the world, think about how those parts of your Gospel Weekly relate to the parable of the wedding feast. These pages are about the hunger that still exists in many parts of our world, including in the U.S., in spite of all of the advances in technology and increases in prosperity in the 20th and 21st centuries. Try to answer the question, how do a story and this data in the quiz about hunger in the world fit into a discussion about the parable of the wedding feast? That's my challenge to you. I want you to think about and perhaps talk about how those messages fit together. And then finally, for this particular lesson, I'd like you to try to read other pages of the weekly that tell you, for example, on page 5, about our Catholic liturgy. Liturgy, which basically means the things that we do as Catholics together in public to worship God, especially in the Mass and in the sacraments. And then on page 6, actually pages 6 through 8, there's a little activity that teaches that when we teaches you about how when we enjoy creation and community, enjoy gatherings together as a celebration, just like we do if we are to go to a wedding reception, a wedding feast, a wedding ceremony and reception afterwards, that we're giving a sense, when we do those things, we are given a sense of what the kingdom of heaven is like and how it's going to be when we get there. So that is my overview of what you're going to be studying in your October 11th Gospel Weekly. If you want to, you can now take a break from this video and come back after you've done your October 11th Weekly before moving on to the lesson for October 18th, which I'm going to give you an overview of next. Okay, welcome back to the video if you've taken a break to finish your work with the October 11 Weekly. The rest of this video is going to give you some direction concerning the lessons in your Gospel Weekly for Sunday, October 18th, and that's this one. The heading of it is The Project, and you'll see that there's a little word find puzzle on the front page as well. So I'm going to again ask you to start not actually with the first page, which contains the puzzle and a story about a project, a story which continues through pages 2 and 3. But I'd like you to start, and I will probably do this with each of our classes, I'd like to direct you, first of all, to the actual gospel, which is included on page 4 of your October 18th Weekly. It's entitled, Give to Caesar and to God. This particular gospel, written by Matthew, is the story of a group of religious leaders called Pharisees who tried to trick Jesus into taking sides in an argument between them and another group of Jews about paying taxes to the Romans, who ruled that part of the world where they lived at that time. At the end of this story, the Pharisees were left speechless. That is, they could not think of anything to say. I want you to please read the gospel story and, if possible, discuss it with a parent, an older sibling, or a friend, and try to understand what this gospel about taxes and disputes between Pharisees and another group of Jewish people what that has to do with you and your life as a fifth grade student in the year 2020. Always, there's a section in the weekly that will help you understand and do this. Directly below the gospel, there's an explanation entitled, "We have duties to God and to one another." Reading that section, which stresses that as members of the people of God, we follow God's law of love and the Ten Commandments. And we also have a duty as citizens of the United States, citizens of the state of Delaware, citizens, or possibly Pennsylvania, as citizens of the United States. We also have a duty to follow its laws, pay its taxes, and vote, among other things. Next, following along in this theme, I'd like you to read pages 6 and 7, which talk about the first 3 commandments of the 10 commandments that were given to Moses on Mount Sinai, and which I'm sure you've studied in prior years. Sorry, I've lost my spot. I'll find it in a moment. After reading about these particular 3 commandments, which are all about how we are to live our life in relation to God, how we are to honor, obey, and respect Him. And after you read about these commandments, I encourage you to brainstorm a list of things you can do to honor each one of them. And then I'd like you to figure out what those things are that you can commit to doing during the course of the next week or the week thereafter. Again, try to come up with some ideas about how you can honor the first 3 commandments of the 10 commandments, and then commit yourself to actually fulfilling that promise during the weeks ahead. Okay? And then once you've done that, if you read the story that begins on page 1, called The Project, and continues on pages 2 and 3, and if you do the word find puzzle on page 1, you will explore how we have not only an obligation to honor God the Father as set forth in the first 3 of the 10 commandments, but you'll also explore how we have a duty to live a moral life where we all contribute to the good of society in a spirit of truth, of justice towards all, and of freedom. And I will make sure that your parents have a copy of the answers, or have the answers to the word find, so that you can check your answers against the correct ones. And then finally, I'm going to encourage you to read the questions and answers on the last page of this particular Gospel Weekly, as it contains questions about our faith that students just like you have sent to Venture, the company that provides us with this material, for answers. I think in particular there's a question here that many of us struggle with, and the question is, why does God allow evils like poverty and injustice, especially when God has the power to end them? I think that's the kind of provocative question that we all struggle with, and I think Venture provides a really excellent answer to the question. So I really commend that to you. So now that is the extent of my my suggestions to you for how to get the most out of your Gospel Weekly for the week of, or for the Sunday of October 18th, 2020. Again, each Gospel Weekly covers the gospel that's given on that particular Sunday. And all the material that makes up the full several pages of the weekly relates in some way or other to the message that Jesus is conveying in the gospel for that Sunday. Okay? So we're just about to the end of my instruction to you for the next 2 weeks, but before I close, I wanted to remind you that October is the month of the Rosary in the Roman Catholic Church. And the feast of Our Lady of the Rosary is celebrated in October. It's on the 7th of October. I know you all know what a rosary is, and I just remind you that it's one of the best known of all Catholic devotions because it's a simple way of meditating on the life of Christ with the mysteries of the Rosary, which you can find in the back of, again, your Venture Handbook. You can find all of the mysteries that we meditate on when we say the Rosary. You can consider, by doing that, you can consider the life, passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus through his mother's eyes. And I think it will have a profound impact on you. And I want to encourage all of you to try to say at least one decade of the Rosary. A decade consists of 1 Our Father, 10 Hail Marys, and 1 Glory Be. And if you do that each week, perhaps you can build up to saying an entire Rosary, which is 5 decades. So it would mean 5 Fathers, 50 Hail Marys, and 5 Glory Bees, as well as a couple of other prayers. If you can do all of that, maybe you can build up to saying a complete Rosary by Thanksgiving. I think that would be a great goal to aim for. And so, given that it is the month of the Rosary, I think it would be a good idea to close this session today by saying the Hail Mary together. And we begin in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope you have a wonderful couple of weeks, and good night, and God bless you. And I'll see you, or I guess more correctly, you'll see me next time.